So, I have notes. Look, I'm not gonna sugarcoat this review, but I did not care for episode 3. 4 is it's a whole other can of worms. I said I was feeling pretty optimistic after episode 2. It made it seem like the show was finding its footing, but the cracks in the writing are showing, and it really feels like Hazbin is banking so much on us already being familiar with these characters, and isn't taking the time to really set up and tell its own story in the time that it has. So let's cut the foreplay and just talk about the mess that was episode 3.
If I can't help you, what's the point of me?
I hate it.
Alright, let's just get my hottest take over with. Vaggy's storyline is rushed as fuck and happens way too early in the season. I think this mainly because we don't really know Vaggy. The show assumes that you've seen the pilot, so it doesn't take too much time to really establish these characters, to make us understand who they are, instead just makes us understand what their gimmick is. We have jaded old guy, Quagmire, the optimist, and the freak. So for the show to try and pull the what am I without you card this early makes the statement feel just incredibly hollow. As it's so early, we don't know that much even about her. We don't have enough time to gauge for ourselves if her sacrificing and her overprotectiveness of Charlie is an actual character flaw or not. This feels like a problem that would have been faced much later in the season, when we have a much better grasp of who they are and what the dynamic in their relationship is. For the last 3 episodes now, they've been mostly just reacting to the drama around them, rather than really just building a rapport. You get the hints of Vaggy being devoted and wanting the best for Charlie. She chooses violence, but Charlie's better nature stops her and she loves her for that. That's kind of the limit of what we get, with not enough being expanded upon besides that. Like, Huss says she hates herself in episode 4, and my honest reaction was, does she? Like, really? Because they have not done enough to really show that. She just kind of seems grumpy, and I don't get any real self-hatred vibes here. So we don't really feel like she's truly throwing herself at Charlie to really save her problems because she doesn't want to help her own. So for episode 3, to have Vaggy feeling worthless and questioning her identity before doubling down on protecting Charlie, like, no, it's too early. It feels like it's addressing a problem we didn't even know existed, with the episode itself not really doing enough to actually get us there and believe that, as the hotel plotline for this episode is all over the place. The impetus for Vaggy and Charlie's fight is Vaggy feeling like she's a failure and that her methods aren't working and she's failing Charlie as a result. This could work, but there's just one problem. Throwing them into a turf war is the first and only idea Vaggy has. The trustful exercise was Charlie's idea that she put Vaggy in charge of. They barely try it, doesn't really go that wrong, and then the BDSM club, the second thing they try, was Angel's idea. Then the third thing they do is the trauma bonding where the fight happens. Vaggy claims there that she went a little too crazy, but there's no sense of escalation to make it feel like there's actually an impact or like some truth to that statement. Sure, she's feeling desperate and feels like she's failing Charlie, but more than that, it just feels like she got swept along with the events that happened. She made one choice, then suddenly it's like, oh no, this is a massive overstep, when really it's the first thing that's really happened that she has decided. It doesn't have enough build-up to make this argument and fight feel meaningful. That yes, things are bad, the angels are coming, but out of all the choices that we made, this feels like a nothing burger. There's no prior disagreements or Charlie like disagreeing with Vaggy's methods, holding her tongue, or Vaggy like escalating to being this extreme choice, so there's no really extra emotional weight here to really make us feel like Vaggy earned this low. Not to mention, in the context of the hell we've seen, a violent shootout is an average Tuesday, so throwing these yahoos into the line of fire doesn't even feel like it's that dangerous. Hell, Nifty is looking forward to it. But here we have Charlie making such a huge deal about it, and while that is in character for her, from what we've seen of this world, it doesn't seem that bad. It doesn't feel like Vaggy's doubling down on like bad ideas, so it all feels toothless. It doesn't feel like we've earned Vaggy telling Charlie to go away and having this whole emotional song about it. And especially not for Vaggy to then go ahead and apologize for her actions. The story failed to convince me that this was earned or even warranted. Not to mention, if you take the stance that this is set up for Vaggy getting too protective later, I kind of counter that for the fact that the song doesn't really feel like it's saying that Vaggy's choice is a mistake here. Instead, it feels like they're right and noble for wanting to protect their loved ones. When really, the question that Vaggy starts with is, what am I without her? And her answer was Charlie's armor. And I feel like if that's an issue, you really gotta stress that maybe, just maybe, she's making a mistake. With their promise to be partners and not to fight, not really addressing the issue that Vaggy apparently has. That she doesn't really know who she is if she's not helping Charlie. And that goes unaddressed. So really, what were we doing here? This could have worked, but it happens so early in the story, it just doesn't. The episode just doesn't build up to that breaking point, and from the start of the episode, I honestly thought that they were setting up a different arc for Vaggie. Like, Charlie points out how she trusts everyone, so trust exercises just wouldn't have any impact if she was the one doing them. So instead, Vaggie should take the lead. This made me think that Vaggie's arc was going to be about her learning to trust others besides Charlie. As honestly, yeah, she doesn't trust anyone else here. So having Miss All Stabs No Trust be the one to actually learn to trust people would have been just like a great little arc for her character and just give us more chance to get to know her. As yeah, she does kind of fail to show trust to other people, as even in the first lesson where she says everyone has to say a secret then do a trust fall, she doesn't participate in that. They straight up move on to the next thing before she even gets a chance to really even try. It would have been cool for her to be called out for her lack of trust in other people, and now by giving it, she's able to finally receive trust in return. But no, this plot can't really nail down what it wants to say, with what it does say really banging the fact that you're already a fan of Vaggie's character and just the concept of Protector Vaggie, but the execution doesn't earn it. Instead, we end up wasting a juicy moment that could have come later. Speaking of which... Okay, so the mystery of who killed the angel, while it is a weird rush addendum to the premiere, was one of the more interesting hooks for the series. We were really wondering who did it, how, why. Will it tie into someone at the hotel? Could it be Charlie's mom? Could it have been Vaggie who had gone overboard to protect Charlie? Well, you can stop wondering because the show throws out the answer in episode 3 on a character we literally just met. This is crazy to me. As Carmilla, she seems cool, but I don't fucking know her. So it's kind of hard for me to care that she was the one that did it. Like, yes, she's singing about how she did it to protect her kids, cool, but I don't know either of their names and I have zero desire to learn them. She doesn't tell anyone because she thinks that if everyone knew, it would cause hell to try and fight back against heaven, leading to a war that will get everyone, including her kids, killed. So instead, she keeps quiet to minimize losses. Okay, first off, she's an arms dealer in hell, where people kill each other for shits and giggles constantly. The angel exterminations have been happening for centuries, so her caring about the loss of life reeks of unaddressed hypocrisy. She may be mommy, but I don't care that she's a mother. The concept is there, but like with Vaggie, I have zero reason to care. The fact that she was the one that killed the angel destroys the mystery. The reveal just happens. With its attempts to set up a time bomb that might rally hell to fight back against the angels, just doesn't really work for me. Like, Alistair knows, the Egg Boy knows, Serpentius kind of knows, but that's not that different from what was already happening. We already knew that the angel body was in hell. We always knew that there's a chance that someone was gonna find out about this, and now we're basically doing the same thing again, only we now know who knows. So effectively, nothing has changed except we've been given a lackluster answer to what could have been a tantalizing mystery. Alistair knows. Is he gonna use that for something later? I don't know. As a story, we know that this information is gonna come out, and we have no real idea of what Alistair wants or would gain from this info. And the story isn't really challenging us to really ask the question of what he's gonna do with it. Not to mention, watching the story, think that it deserves this big emotional song when it hasn't in the slightest, which is honestly one of the more worrying things to me. It betrays a habit that I notice in Hell of a Boss, where the story will choose near instant gratification over a longer build-up with a bigger payoff. These moments with Vaggie and Carmilla could work, but the show is in such a rush to do them that they feel underwhelming and out of place. I think people will love these scenes in isolation, as it's within isolation as you come up with your own ideas that they could really be fun. But in the actual story that they're in, they didn't do enough to earn them, which to me is very worrying. A friend of mine I talked to about this just hit the nail on the head and mentioned that so far Hazbin Hotel has been going through these big emotional beats, but the story also feels weirdly impersonal as it's telling them, as it expects us to already care about the story and the characters, when no, you have to earn that shit here, and to me, it just is failing to do that. But to be nice and talk about some of the things I may have liked, I am liking the mystery about what happened to Alistair 7 years ago. It's the most interesting thing that the story has going for it right now because it's not rushing to give us the answer. What happened to Alistair? Why has he been gone for so long? As everyone agrees that Alistair is an enigma amongst sinners. His power level is too damn high for normal overlords. So his disappearance and return makes me actually curious, especially since his disappearance lines up with Lilith's. They both disappeared 7 years ago, and that doesn't feel like it's gonna be a coincidence. His little sabbatical with the Egg Boys was cute. These little minion guys surprisingly worked for me. I expected to hate them, but they were good. Velvet not getting the shaft was also nice. She showed up, was hated by everyone, and then had the gall to try and change the point of the entire meeting to rally hell behind the V's. Her song, most fun of the episode, as it doesn't need emotional ties, it just needs to be a good time, showing off the divide between the older rulers of hell and the new kids on the block. I'm not sure if they are like the youngest overlords, but they are at the very least up and comers. They are the most willing to embrace change, as change will bring them more power. But like with Alistair calling out Vox, the V's power business is built around creating and chasing trends, which while giving them a lot of attention, will only last so long as they can stay on top of it, while the other overlords are more established and with much more proven avenues of wealth. Zestial was also super fucking dope. Alistair having someone he can actually talk to as an equal is just a nice change of pace, with everyone around them choosing death and be trapped between them. Unrelated but nifty. Weirdly, MVP of the show right now. Every line she says cracks me the fuck up. Also, for all of you who think Vaggie is going to be a fallen angel, notice how she says Charlie's people rather than their people. But yeah, overall, kind of frustrated with this episode. I gave the premiere a pass on its weirdness, but while the editing hasn't slipped that badly since, writing is everything, and the songs can only cover the show's ass for so long. Alright, let's talk about episode 4.
Done.
Now, trigger warning for the following topics. Now, I have mixed thoughts on Masquerade. We're gonna start with what I liked first. An absolute strength of this episode is that of the entire cast, Husk and Angel just have been my favorite couple in the show. Even if it's not in a romantic sense, I think these two just gel so well together. From Angel just being a prick to Husk just being the only one to call him out on his bullshit. I love how just done Husk is with Angel, for how brutally honest he is with him. As you can tell that Husk's annoyance comes from a place of seeing so much of himself in the younger man. Husk, as we find out, was a former overlord. He was on top of his game till a gambling addiction ruined him and put him in the radio demon's debt. Hence why he goes along with all of Alistair's requests to help out at the hotel. Husk knows better than anyone what it feels like to be self-destructive and overindulging in a vice. Charlie has led a sheltered life. Vaggie has some military-like background. The others are there. So it really is just Husk that can reach out and understand what Angel is going through. And that's what makes me just love them together. The symmetry, the commonality, the ability to truly emphasize and give practical advice about what to do next. And we understand why they're doing it, as this jaded cat wants to help Angel just not be him. Meanwhile, Husk can get out of his own dumps to care about somebody else for a change. I love Husk's song and how it isn't just like, oh, you're better than you think you are nonsense. Angel Dust will have shot that shit down in a heartbeat. Instead, Angel Dust sings about how he's a loser, but so is everyone else. Husk isn't singing to his self-esteem, he's telling Angel Dust that he isn't alone, which is a great first step towards a real recovery. These two are losers together, though I am a Keith David fanboy, so I'm an easy mark for this. What brings me to pause is while I get this is the beginning, not the ending of Angel Dust's recovery, I'm a little bit unsure about how the show's handling Angel's situation. As yeah, Valentino is a Weinstein, and that's gonna make me nervous about how any show would handle this topic. Personally, I think it's handling it okay, I think. Valentino's waffling between buffoon and monster faster than his accents. I can respect how this is meant to be the season's Wham episode. But part of me questions if the show really had enough lead up to really tackle this subject matter. Not to mention the dramatic and serious tone this episode takes. As we start with Angel just looking like he's being held hostage only for it to turn out to be a porno, which sets a tone like, okay, you're gonna feel a little bit more uncomfortable here, raise tension just a little bit. And we keep building with that as Angel's just terrified of Valentino till we dive into straight abuse. And a full musical number complete with scenes that feel less than consensual. Oh, and then because we need to really up the ante, Angel Dust nearly gets drugged by a bunch of men, with Angel implying that this is a semi-regular occurrence. Angel's almost always close to having a complete breakdown here, and admits that the worst of his behavior and how he's been devaluing himself is fueled by a desire that Valentino will lose interest and stop hurting him. This is a lot. Genuinely, the season up until this point has been mostly dark comedy with some emotional moments, but they were always kind of uplifting, and then there's a misogyny.
Mr. Adams, sir.
Call me Dickmaster.
Adam.
Like, the series hasn't really dug into any real dark subject matter till this. Dark and serious. So to go from jokes to, oh, one of the worst things that can happen to a person, and the long-lasting impact of that, it's truly 0 to 100, and I'm kinda not feeling it. I don't know if this show needed more moments just to prep us for this, or if it's not handling the material with the care that it needs. People have already been very critical of Angel's song, how it depicts a situation and what we see in it. Personally, I'm not in love with the sequence. I'll give it credit that it feels very authentic to Angel Dust and how he would depict his story at this point. It's a dark pop song about what he's been through, though the question of what does poison add to the conversation is kind of up in the air for me, and I'm curious to see what other people think about it. I appreciate the episode, and I like Husk and Angel bonding. I'm really gonna have to wait for Angel's arc to be complete to make a final decision here, as this is a first step, and the fact that everyone's laughing and goofing off while ignoring the fact that Valentino still owns Angel's soul kinda spoils the mood for me. I appreciate the attempt though. The thing that has been bugging me though for most of the season so far is that it does feel like the show is just rushing to get to shit. It feels like we've jumped into season 2 territory, where we've gotten the reveal that Heaven doesn't really care about overpopulation, but it's actually been all about control. This renders the "can demons be redeemed" question and the process of getting them there to feel just inconsequential. Every other part of the story feels like it's gearing up towards this bigger conflict, leaving the actual Hazbin Hotel to feel like a side hustle in its own show. The hotel doesn't feel like it's really redeeming people, it feels like it's being run on good intentions and summer camp shit. We're halfway through the season, and the only demon we've helped is Serpentious. Husk is the one that really aided Angel Dust, but while those moments can be good, I still can't shake the feeling that every time that the show decides to split focus in an episode between the hotel and something else, they are in competition with one another. There's just this need to put everything on screen in the limited amount of time that we have. To see the Overlords, the V's, the War with Hell, the Exterminators, the Dead Angel, I honestly think that the show felt pressured with the expectations of showing everything that's been hinting about all these years, but then it doesn't have the time to really flesh out any of it. Say what you want about shows that have filler first seasons before becoming more serialized, those episodic first seasons are a great way to get us invested in the worlds and learn about the characters, which to me is the thing that Hazbin is struggling with. It's always juggling so many other ideas that they end up feeling disconnected and undercooked. I don't know what the production for this show was like, how many seasons were promised, but this season has just been too much. And the biggest loser of this has been the hotel itself and the people we're supposed to care about. Bless episode 4 for focusing on one thing, but it kinda had to given the subject matter. The show is doing too much too soon, with only getting away with some of it because the concepts work on paper, but in execution, they often feel out of place. To me, this show has been mostly fine so far. I like the music, the animation is really fun, the characters are a little bit over animated at times, but the writing is doing these characters a disservice, and the rush to show so much of the world and get to the bigger plot is taking away what I think could be the strength of this story: the characters. If we give them the time they need to shine, I think we'll be good. But if every episode has the main emotional arc fighting for attention with other elements, or just being weirdly anticlimactic given what could be done with this, then I think we're gonna have a problem. But we will just have to wait and see. Let me know what you all thought of the episode. What did you think of Masquerade and how it handled Angel's story? I'm still not sure how I feel about it, but I am curious to see where the show will go from here. But I'm also very nervous.